someone that you don't know. Have you hit record yet?
Yeah.
All right. I'll behave now. All right. So thank you all for turning up to the second startup grind. Who came to the first one? Bonnie. Yep. Sarah. Winnie. You came to. No, you came. Did you come to the first one? With Gemma? No. No, that's cool. So a bunch of new faces, which is really, really cool. So Startup Grind, for those that are new, is a part of a global organisation founded in the Valley. There you go, reference to Bonnie and you guys. And I've had a load of cold and flu medication and a beer as well, so just be careful, all right? Global organisation is running 320 cities around the world, 120 countries. It's all about, where are we? Give first, don't take, make friends not contacts, and help others before yourself. So it's all about education, inspiration. I took on the chapter director of Perth, try and do something a bit different here, and what I'm aiming to do is bring different people through that aren't your normal kind of startup people that everybody knows in Perth. All right, so Shahirah and Toby, that we've known each other for a while, happen to be back into Perth. They're now in Melbourne, and so I reached out and asked Shah to share her journey with us. So we will go for probably the next 45 minutes.
Sure.
How full's your drink?
Full.
All right.
Thanks, Bonnie.
So first of all, right, and I've got some notes so I don't get lost. I tend to waffle if I do. So can you really tell us a little bit about your background?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you start?
Where did I start?
Where did you
Where
start?
am I now?
Yeah, go back to coming out of school and
Way back. Oh, I don't know about that. So my background is in tech PR and marketing. I worked in San Francisco for a number of years, working with early stage startups right through to global tech companies across B2B and B2C. Some industries include big data, healthcare IT, gaming, some really unsexy B2B, and basically helping them, build their brand profiles through media relations and investor relations. Moved back to Perth in 2014 to discover quite a buzzing startup ecosystem here in Australia, particularly in Perth, where it was the beginnings of a lot of early stage startups, and so felt my PR, knowledge and expertise was better put to use on the marketing front. So having been exposed to lots of different companies of different sizes and scales and budgets and go-to-market strategies, started working with a lot of startups here, helping them sort of build their marketing stack, if you will, and had the opportunity to meet a lot of faces in the room here today, including Andy, and was really able to focus on helping startups bring their products to market by understanding their customers, which was a gap that was currently in the Perth market at the time. Within sort of arriving in Perth, obviously very excited by the opportunities and the gaps that we saw in the Fintech or the startup space in general, and knew we were going to try to pursue something really exciting. So we had toyed, I guess, maybe the beginnings of Finch, which looked very different in the start, and then decided to pursue it full time, take the business to Melbourne, quit our jobs, build Finch from scratch, and from there we plugged away a year and a half, working on kind of business model and MVP. We launched in July of last year, raised 2.25 within 6 weeks, and now we're here.
Cool. So you mentioned San Fran.
Yep.
What made you end up there?
A boy. Toby was finishing up his MBA at Berkeley, and we did long distance for just over 2 years and a bit from Perth to San Francisco. So I'm pretty sure I lost a bet and had to move over.
And you had to go. And so one of the things that you mentioned about PR and tech and fintech? Were you always interested in the kind of tech side of things, or is it something you fell into?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. Listen, I think when you're an SF, it's very hard not to be. You're so immersed in all the cool tech, and you get first dibs on everything. So as a consumer, you're very much exposed, to all the latest tech and the newest developments. In PR, in order to be really good at your job, you need to be able to take a really complex idea, a technological concept, and not just explain it, but also, explain why it matters and explain how it fits into the broader scale of what you're seeing in industry trends, both locally and globally. And so you just have to develop a natural curiosity for it, and if you didn't, you would hate your job.
So one of the things that when you sent through a bit of a bio about yourself, you actually put in there that you mentioned you made others look good.
Did I say that?
You did.
Did I?
So how'd you go about that? I guess because PR and marketing is one of the goals of a lot of tech startups as well. So what's some of the learnings that you took away from that you could actually share with them?
I think branding and positioning is really important, and it's something, unfortunately, that doesn't get addressed in the early stages of a startup, and rightly so, because you're so busy building product and getting product out the door and making sure you've got the tech capabilities and skills in-house to actually build the technology. So oftentimes things like marketing and comms falls by the wayside, and it doesn't become a priority often until they raise capital and seed, and then all of a sudden you see an appointment of a marketing or comms director. I've been able to, see startups that have not had any marketing and comms in place, and while their products are fantastic, they lack the ability to sell it. And as you all know, you've done Marketing 101, people don't buy products, they buy people, they buy stories. And so really helping startups be able to tell those stories at an early stage, I think, is really important and undervalued until you come into a startup where marketing, and Finch is a great example, where marketing is actually a cornerstone of our product and our brand, and something we think a lot about before launch.
Cool. So you mentioned stories and people by people. Do you think people actually jump to the story rather than the actual problem that they're trying to solve to start with? So they kind of create a story about the hype and what they're trying to do rather than where they're actually trying to hook into?
Can you elaborate?
Probably not. So it was more to do with the fact of so everything should start with a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of startups that I actually see, that isn't there, and so the story becomes this self-prophesizing vortex as well. So is there a way that people can actually unpack that and move it back to what it should be about?
Yeah. So that's a great question, and I think the question to ask is, why are you telling a story if you don't have full grasp of the problem and the solution? And so this kind of ties into a lot of things you do, but capital raising, for example, you need to be ready to tell the right story. If you don't have the ingredients for the right story that an investor wants to hear, then it's not the right time. And so similarly, if you're an early stage startup and you have a vision and you have an idea and you have a product, I would strongly advise you to focus on building your business model first, validating with your customers first, speaking with your customers before you're telling anyone your story.
Cool. So you mentioned Finch a couple of times. So where did you come up with the idea for Finch? And then I'll get you to explain it. I'll get you to pitch it.
Yeah, okay.
Because not all of this lot might have done their homework and actually had a look at what Finch is.
Yeah, sure. So at what point did it come? So listen, moving back to Australia, there was a lot of stuff that just wasn't here that we'd gotten used to in the US. Lots of cool apps and tech, and not just in finance. And so it became very clear, you know, within sort of 6 to 12 months of being here, that there was just a lot of opportunity. And between us, so Toby, my co-founder and husband, finance background, my background's in tech marketing, we knew that we would enter the B2C space within finance, but weren't entirely sure where in that journey we would enter. So we just spent a lot of time evaluating what was currently in the market, both in Australia, reflecting back on what we saw in the US, looking ahead to places like Europe, what was happening over there, to decide what it was that we were going to build. We always felt quite passionately about, you know, the financial experience of millennials. I think there is a very confronting disconnect between financial services and advisors and the millennial segment. A great example of that is the great avocado smash avo saga, which actually broke out the week of demo day in Silicon Valley, and it just gave us awesome material to work with. But things like that were just kind of perpetuating, and you know, I think as a millennial myself, we're just kind of a bit wary of what's currently available. The fact that the banks are, you know, testing our trust in them, and also the fact that, you know, that there's a huge increase in sort of customer service and quality, made it very clear that was the space that we would go into.
Cool. So the pitch for Finch?
The pitch for Finch. So Finch is a financial app for your social life. Our philosophy is to meet millennials where they currently are today, so around their social financial behaviours. So the app itself allows you to pay friends instantly without BSBs, split bills, run group tabs, which is particularly helpful in the case of housemates or travel mates, and in time be able to grow with you as your financial priorities evolve and inevitably change. Boom.
Good. How many times have you rattled that off?
Broken record.
So you had this idea, you had the problem where you wanted to focus.
Yeah.
So you were back in Perth. So what was the journey then?
Yeah.
Once you got focused around what you actually wanted to achieve?
Yeah. So I don't know if some of you remember when we first. Finch was not Finch in 2014. It was an idea that we were really excited about. We were actually very excited about the robo model for women. You know, I always felt that was an underrepresented and, you know, not addressed market here in Australia. And seeing the successes of companies like LearnVest out of the US, we thought that it would be a great thing to explore and pursue here. We were quite married to the idea for a little while, and after we had spent time sort of evaluating, you know, doing the business model canvas as you do, discovered it wasn't, you know, a defendable position for us to start. The acquisition costs, anyone will tell you today, is you know, skyrocketing. And so we took a step back. We assessed the financial journey. Where do our customers start? Where do our customers finish? What are all the pain points and friction points in between? And where is the best place for us to enter with the lowest customer acquisition cost at the highest level of stickiness? And so that's where we landed around social payments, which is where we're starting and looking to grow with our customers over time. So I guess in terms of making that a reality, once we had decided that this is what we were doing, you know, I guess the first thing we did was, you know, really be honest with ourselves and do the canvas. I know that people are reluctant to, but it gives you, you know, a really great snapshot of your value proposition. It forces you to clarify and iterate your value proposition, the channels to market, your customer segments, the partners, the infrastructure you need, everything you need to make this a possibility on one page in 20 minutes. And if it doesn't make sense, you go back and you iterate. We knew that we had to, there was a lot of existing research around the current sort of social payments market here in Australia. You know, some pretty substantial reports by Visa and sort of some of the of like EY or Deloitte that had supported our sort of thesis around entering at a social payments play. And so coupled with actual customer discovery, going out and speaking to people, how are you currently paying friends? There's this awkward, we all go out for dinner, Cam doesn't pay me back, I really don't want to ask him for $50, it gets awkward. Validating your assumptions, even though you already know this to be true because you are the target market and you see it with your friends and you see it with your family, but going out and actually talking to customers to make sure that this is a problem that they're solving. So, understanding the problem, understanding the intensity of the problem, and understanding their willingness to pay for a solution. This is very simple customer discovery stuff. And so once we had validated all that, what we did was actually some of the, the less sexy stuff, which is legal and compliance, which Toby gets to do.
I was going to say, did you outsource that?
Yeah, totally. Obviously a barrier to entry for a lot of entrepreneurs in fintech is around the legal and compliance, and so I think the first big chunk of change we spent was with our lawyers to make sure that we were developing a compliance light strategy to market. I think our second stop was AUSTRAC. So AUSTRAC is I never know what they stand for. Australian Transaction Regulation People. So working with them to get an exemption around things like our AML CTF obligations, so anti-money laundering and fraud. As a remitter, the expectation is that you fulfill compliance obligations, which is a huge burden to a tiny startup with no money. And so we worked really hard to design a system, presented it back to them that assured sort of the low risk that our users, that our customers would pose. And on the back of that, they actually granted us exemption from that. And so we were able to do two things out of that, which is really interesting. So the first was, we were able to create an onboarding process that didn't require the normal tedious date of birth, address, whatever else they ask for.
Yep.
And then secondly, it allowed us to go fast. It allowed us to forget about, having to get a compliance and risk officer in place and our reporting in place. And it really got us to focus on the customer, on the onboarding journey. And they've been a huge support. They kind of wave the Finch flag on our behalf. And that was probably one of the smartest things we did very earlier on. And I think that as a fintech, you always need to be thinking 10 steps ahead to what's coming up, because it's everything you do is going to be either hindered or supported by the compliance that surrounds it. And then I guess finally, Finch, I would like to think the Finch brand feels like a brand that can be trusted and feels like a brand that resonates with our audience, because we spent a lot of time building the brand and building the audience ahead of launch. And so, prior to even having a product, we had all of our comms in place. We knew that the millennial user or the millennial customer, would be expecting brand credibility at every touch point across all of our channels. So we spent a lot of time developing, brand that looked and felt authentic, that resonated in terms of the tone and how we communicated with them. We didn't know exactly what we were going to say to them just yet, but we knew that if we set the tone and if we knew that we talked about a problem that we were solving in broader terms, that we could develop that relationship with them well ahead of having a product in market. So we actually launched in July with 10,000 plus Instagram followers, which doesn't sound like much, except that when you combine all of that of the banks and what they're doing kind of with their millennial campaigns, it's a pretty great achievement.
Cool. So you mentioned before San Fran because you followed a boy, and then you came back to Perth. You did all the research, understand the problem. Mm-hmm. At what point did you start to think about moving somewhere else? outside of Perth.
Outside of Perth.
Mm.
I'd bad if I said that it had always kind of been.
It's not a trick question.
You know, we building Finch out of Perth. We'd always known we'd take it over east. I think that, you know, in order for us to be a little bit more involved and kind of immersed in the startup ecosystem in general, a big part of building a fintech startup is a lot of partnerships and a lot of relationships, and so we felt that being over there would provide us with that kind of that kind of exposure.
So why Melbourne over Sydney?
Interesting. A totally selfish reason. It reminded me of San Francisco a lot. Yeah.
I know, because it was
without the homeless people. or so many. It's so bad.
So I mean, I remember I spent 10 years in Melbourne in the finance industry, and there was always this thing about, well, Sydney's the finance capital of Australia, but there's a lot that goes on in that space still in Melbourne. There's a lot of super funds. There's a lot, you know, 2 of the banks are headquartered there still.
Yeah.
So going back to your kind of plan, you've researched what you're going to do. How did you end up on the accelerator? Yodlee.
No one ever knows how to say
No, I know.
Yodlee.
Yeah.
So a bit of background. Yodlee is the #1 fintech accelerator program in the US. It's ranked #2 in the world. And if you're a startup looking to disrupt an industry, obviously you want to be competing with the best and you want to learn from the best. So we applied. We'd gotten in. You know, I think we went through a fairly rigorous process, but we ended up being actually the first international startup selected to the program ever. And we won Best Product Demo up against a bunch of startups who had raised multiple millions before us.
Those Americans are really loud.
Thank you.
It is good. It's a good story. So, so how did you, when you moved, how did you fund all this?
We sold our house.
Cool. So you had some skin in the game?
Yep.
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 All or nothing.
Basically.
And did your research around the problem and the customer journey and the story and everything else, did that make all of that easier to go through, or was it still a, oh my God, what are we doing?
You know, I think there's are there any startups in the room today? Entrepreneurs? Yeah. You know, if you're not already working full time on your venture, you know, find a way. We were sort of, you know, neither here nor there for a year and a bit as we worked through the business model. Toby was working with KPMG. I was doing my PR consulting, and I remember the first week that I got to just work on Finch. I was on vacation.
Holidays.
Holidays. I got to do a whole week's worth of work on Finch, uninterrupted, didn't have to switch my brain to PR, pitching, and the amount of, I was so excited and so amazed at how much work got done and how much better I felt about being able to give my undivided attention and focus. And I think if it's possible for you to find a way to go all in, you know, all in your time, but also, you know, having skin in the game also makes it a little uncomfortable. It makes you, you know, work that little harder, a little longer, and I think you'll be quite surprised with what you do when you've got, you know, everything to lose.
I like it.
Yeah.
But you've got each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog. So, as you were going through that, you went through the accelerator program. You did your pitch. You won Best Product Demo.
Yeah.
Came back to Melbourne. Start looking for some capital.
So that was all pre-launch.
Ah, okay.
Yep. So when we pitched to investors at Demo Day in Silicon Valley, Toby did a great pitch. Everyone in the audience put out their phones, and I think we had to do a little side sort of announcement after that. Actually, not only were we not in the US market, we're not in any market. We hadn't launched, and I think we might have been the only one that was pre-launch. So I forgot your question.
Does anyone remember it? Charlie, you're taking notes.
What happened after Yodlee and capital raise?
Yeah,
so capital raising, back to Melbourne.
Yeah, so in between, so we're
not just me.
You need more beer, Andy.
So we were still pre-launch at that stage. So it was a very hairy phase of business. Obviously, we split our time between Silicon Valley and Melbourne. We launched. So this was in May, pre-launch. We launched in July, and then turned our attention to capital raising in August, September.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, last year?
Last year.
Yep. And then 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later.
Yeah, all a bit of
Ka-ching!
blur. Yeah.
Was it funded out of Australia or is it funded out of the States?
Funded out of Australia. So I guess a bit of background on the cap raise process. We'd gone out looking to raise 1.5. We were quite clear on what we wanted from our investors, and so that kind of made things a bit easier. We identified, I think, 8 in total between the US and Australia. We ended up being oversubscribed for the round, and ended up taking investment from 2 Australian investors, actually, which is great.
Not based out of Perth?
We're not disclosing any information, right?
No, I know. That's right. I do. One of the things I remember reading about when you did raise the money, that you actually said the reason it appeared to happen really quickly was you had a really strong focus on the execution plan
Of the capital raising.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about that process that you went to?
So, first of all, I think it's important to understand the process of capital raising. You know, I had personally not raised capital, neither of us had raised capital, but we had seen it done. And the advice we were given was also that it just takes up a whole chunk of your time. And having come through the other side of that, I can tell you nothing else happens in your business when you are focused on raising capital. It is a process that you want to end as soon as it begins, and so the quicker you can get in and out, the better. Going back to the execution plan, it's having an execution plan. You know, having a timeline with which you can afford to take away from your business, so making sure that the timing of your cap raise is right. But also, you know, understanding the steps of each stage, and understanding how to create that momentum with your investors. So one of the things that, you know, we were, again, our skill sets are very complementary, is that, you know, when you're raising capital, and I'll always bring it back to storytelling, because that's the marketer in me, but, you know, you need a good story to tell, and you need to know how to tell it well. And what that means is, you know, investors are really not interested in hearing from you unless you have a great story, unless you have evidence of a team that can execute and that can fulfill that reality, and that the market size and your market sort of projection is real and it's sizable. And I think once you've got all those ingredients, that actually packaged up makes for a really interesting proposition to investors. Secondly, you know, I think it's important to be specific with what you need and what you want. It's very tempting to take money from just anyone, but, you know, at this stage of a business, and particularly in fintech, you want strategic money. You want to partner with people who can actually help you scale and help you build your business. So, you know, we kind of had a wish list of our own of what we expected from our investors, both from, you know, their experience in scaling fintech startups, their experience, their network, you know, synergies that we could have, their portfolio companies. So making sure that we stayed true to ourselves, and that, you know, we were able to evaluate all of them based on how they could actually help us, not just provide capital.
Cool. So you mentioned in there that you have complementary skills. What's it really like working with your husband?
It's a lot of fun. No, it is a lot of fun. Like,
and what were some of the learnings as you were getting all of that kind of balanced out? Moving around the world.
Yep.
Great startup idea.
Yeah. What was it like? Or what are some of the learnings?
What are some of the learnings?
Yeah. I think Toby and I were very lucky in that we did long distance. Our relationship started as a long distance relationship, and so we were forced to accelerate and confront a lot of things that we perhaps wouldn't in a normal timeline of a relationship. We have enormous respect for each other, and we have really great communication. And I think as co-founder ingredients, that's ultimately what you want, and obviously that trust. I think that when it comes to us working together, there's always Toby's background, finance, strategy. He does all the legal, the compliance, the product. He's kind of the big vision guy, and I sort of bring the creative, marketing, brand positioning element to Finch. And we work quite separately, actually, in a lot of ways in our business. And the running joke in our office is that if I don't talk to Toby in double speed on the car drive into the office, I actually don't get time with Toby at work at all, because his time is allocated to everybody else in the team. And so, I think that there's also I think when you have a huge amount of respect for each other, you just don't take things personally, So business is business, and when you switch up.
So who's the boss?
I'm always the boss.
Good answer. Is she the boss?
That's why she's up there.
Yeah. It's good. So one of the things, I guess, you've got an idea, you've got all this traction, you've now got some cash in the bank, turning into execution. So what are some of the challenges that you've had where you start to build your team? Because it's critical.
Yeah.
Right? So when you've got the trust between the two of you, and you know how each other works, all of a sudden you've got to instill that trust in somebody else to help you get the vision. So what have you done, and how have you gone through that, and what have you learned along the way?
Yeah, interesting. Hires can make or break a company at this stage in a company. It really can. And we're very lucky. We've got 2 gun hires that came in that had started with us last week. So we've got a tech project manager and a marketing director. And we were very rigorous with our recruiting round, just simply because we had made an error in our hiring process in the last couple of months, and we perhaps didn't have the confidence to know that it was not the right decision earlier on. And so part of this hiring process, we were 250 applications for the tech PM role itself. We had over 120 applications for the marketing director. We made sure that they interviewed with everyone on our team. I was actually just telling Nanda and Co earlier just what these hires had to go through before they were offered the job. So we had interviews with each individual of the team. So interview with our product manager, our chief architect, myself and Toby. We had a team lunch where it was outside of the office. I think we did just a picnic in the grass area by South Bank there. And then we got them to do a case study within 24 hours. So we issued both candidates, tech and marketing, with a fairly comprehensive case study. 24 hours to prepare, 20 minutes to present, and then a 20-minute Q&A. And so hopefully that process allows us to make the best possible decision, and one that we all as a team buy into, which is really important because the team is so small, and it's more than just having the skills and capabilities and experience. it's liking the person you sit next to for 10 hours. You know, it's having shared values, it's having shared vision, shared passion. It's them being cool and you wanting to, you know, be part of this together.
So when you actually, because it's not the normal interview process, and I think a lot of startups don't actually go through that as well. It does just come down, what are your technical skills? Do I like you? Tick. How did people find the process of saying, oh, here's a case study, or you know, we want to see the way you think really before you actually come and join us?
So the interview process is two ways, right? So not only is the candidate selling the best version of themselves, we're selling the best version of ourselves. And I'm very meticulous with every person who walks through the office and the first impression they get of Finch, the first impression they get of the team and how we operate. The case study does a couple of things. So the case study, number one, demonstrates what we're about. You know, we have we would like to instill a culture of excellence, of speed, of agility, and these case studies, for the right person will respond to that and be really excited by the opportunity to do that on a Saturday night, Sunday night. And that's what we want, right? Like we want people like that. And then secondly, you know, it's a taste of the real world. At the end of the day, what we discovered in the recruiting process is everyone's excited about startups, and it is exciting. It's also really scary. It's also really hard work. And so, you know, we had several candidates come up right into the final round, super pumped, want to be part of your growth story, want to, you know, have the hustle and want to join startup land. But in actuality, you know, the reality is very different.
They don't, yeah.
And so, you know, if they can't show up for a case study, then they're not the right person, not the right fit.
So it's almost, it's how they handle that is a large portion of the process that they go through. So one of the things that I wrote down before was that you had an Instagram following of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
How have you gone about converting those into actual users?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of our followers, so I would say maybe 60% is Australian and the rest are in the US. And so what we've done is we started running, so as soon as we got our product, as soon as we knew what our product looked like, you know, we started developing content strategies around bringing the customer deeper into what the product was, you know, what problems we were solving, sort of our key value propositions, and then sort of, you know, embedding that through our Instagram. We don't have so if you think of the marketing funnel, there are always going to be activities that are, you know, allocated to brand awareness before you convert. And so Instagram is still one of those, unlike, I guess, you know, unlike Facebook, is still one of those channels that's there because it's aesthetically pleasing, and you know, you get the right angles and the right shots, and it makes people feel a certain way when they double click the heart thing. And so, you know, I think we recognize that from an awareness standpoint, if all we did for 6 months pre-launch was show products of Finch and the Finch customer and the Finch lifestyle and the Finch kind of you know, our values of who we were as a company and what we represented, then that was our awareness objective ticked. Now we have advertising in place where we can now, you know, target customers who have engaged with our brand prior. So using things like retargeting, following the journey of our customers, where have they gone from our social media channels, where they've gone onto Facebook, where they've gone to our website, and then presenting them with install ads.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the things I liked is you went and did the inner beta.
Yeah.
So I love the term.
Yeah.
At some of the universities.
Yeah.
So how did you find that? Because I think universities are an untapped resource.
Yeah.
For a lot of products, especially in the millennial space as well.
Yeah. So the Innovator program was a 6-week program we ran at University of Melbourne and Sydney, where we identified probably 10 to 15 key influencers on campus. So these were students who held positions of presidents at social clubs or academic clubs, and in exchange for, so it's basically like an hour session every fortnight or every week, in exchange for feedback and customer testing, we delivered innovation workshops. So this is during our time in Silicon Valley, so we were able to tap into some really awesome mentors in the Valley. They got, workshops on product management, growth hacking, business model canvas, all the things they never get taught at school, and would happily give up, an evening a week with some pizza and some, techies to learn. So that was a really successful program, because on the back of that, we then went on to land the FMAA case competition, which is a 6-university Australia-wide financial management comp, which drew over 500 students who, for 2 weeks straight, all they did was customer discovery and report back to us what the millennial market wanted to see next in a product like Finch. So we still have, decks this big from all of the students who we haven't yet got around to reading them all, but we ended up awarding the winning team with internships at Finch. So they're now our product management interns.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I love it. yeah. It's great. So you're up and running, you're out there, got customers, clients, people, millennials.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
So right now, we're really focused on execution. Hiring took a really long time. But we feel really confident with the team we have in place right now. Culture is a big part of this new team, and it's things that you don't think about that are really important to people. If you think of all the companies you've walked into and the way you never got treated and the way you wish you did and the things you wish they did, when we welcome our team, I'm always thinking, how do I make these guys feel really valued and really special when they come to work, so that we get the best version of them every day they come in, so they're excited and they're passionate about doing this with us. And that means, little things like putting in people's calendars when we're going to go play with the puppy, and, when we're going to go for coffee, and, because no one tells you that when you go in a real job. Everyone's just like, take a break when you need to take a break. But we recognise that breaks are really, really important. We don't want people to burn out, and so we're very conscious of how we look after our team and make sure, they're enjoying themselves and they're super productive. On the product side, we're now starting to get product out, which kind of reflects the phase 2 of what we're doing in terms of thinking of where our customers are heading to next, what they're wanting to, what some of their financial goals are. So little things like right now they're using the group tabs on Finch to run their travel tabs. So say we're going off to Europe next month. You've paid for the Airbnb, I've paid for the cab, you've paid for tickets, and we just add it to the tab. So we're looking at how to enhance some of our most popular features in line with what they're naturally expecting next. So things like foreign exchange, things like making the app available offline, things like them to be able to use the app in the local currency and settle back in Australian dollars. Things like that, and then also looking at kind of the more serious, I guess, financial goals that one might start thinking about around kind of savings and sort of financial goal setting, spending tracking, that kind of thing.
So roll forward 5 years.
Oh, that's so
I was going to say 10, but that is really far. So 5 years. When you think about how much you've done over the past 18 months, nearly 2 years, where do you think you'll be?
I don't know if I could answer that question. 5 years. We're really looking to reimagine consumer finance entirely, and we're starting here. And our vision has always been the same from day one. That's something I'm very proud to say, and part of that is being very clear on the problem and the solution and how you're going to bring that to market. In 5 years from now, I would like Finch to be a household name. I can't tell you exactly what gets us there, but I think that there is a real opportunity in the market for us to build a trusted, authentic, transparent financial brand for the millennial segment. And I think that we'll continue to listen very closely to our customers, what they're wanting next. We have 10 presentations to read through that's real life material. It's real sort of 18 to 21-year-olds telling us what they want to see in a financial platform.
Cool. All right. Top 3 learnings, wisdom, advice, just to finish off.
Top 3 learnings.
That you would give to yourself as an 18-month earlier person.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Look after yourself, I think, is, if I could tell myself that 18 months ago. The entrepreneurial path is a hard one, but you choose it. I was having lunch with friends today, and we choose this path. We choose the path of really high highs and really low lows. For the belief that the upside is so up, right? And I think that it's so easy to get caught up in the obsession and the desperation of that sometimes, particularly when you've got a lot on the line. But you can't possibly be your best performing self if you're not looking after yourself. And there's a book that I read over Christmas called
Finish the sentence.
Look after yourself first.
High performance.
Is that actually called High Performance? It's a bit underwhelming. But anyway, they try, they apply sort of the same methodology that elite athletes apply when they're preparing for marathons or big matches or big games. In that, they'll do their regular training, and the 2 or 3 days in the lead up to the race, they actually just totally chill out. They don't go to the gym. They'll go hiking with friends. They'll get themselves mentally prepared, knowing that they have done all the necessary training for this big game, and what they have to do now in preparation of it is all mental, and realizing that actually the quote is it takes anyone can work like a dog. Anyone can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, go out and boast about it, but it takes real courage to rest. It takes real courage to say, time out, exhausted, I need a break. And I wish I knew that, because there were some moments where it was like, what are we doing?
It was hard as well because you're passionate about it.
Absolutely. So you don't want to be doing anything else.
No.
You don't want to be doing anything else.
Yep. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 more.
Oh gee, that was such a good one.
It was a
though.
good one.
Come
It was a good
on.
one. One more.
One more.
Get an office dog sooner.
Get an office dog sooner. Yeah, we have little Japanese Spitz running around in our office, which is very therapeutic, I must say. Number 2, I think that a lot of people are going to tell you how to build your business, and some of it is warranted, and some of it isn't. And it's really, you need to take that with a pinch of salt. I don't know why you're laughing.
What is the advice on hiring from overseas hiring?
The Bengals
overseas
dude.
hiring?
Yeah, from
Bengals dude.
the Bengals dude.
Oh no.
The CTO, London.
It's all right, we'll
Hiring
cover this out
a
in the video,
CTO.
where they just have their own conversation amongst themselves.
He told us we had to leave our co-working space.
Oh, with the Bengals dude. Yes.
Oh, right, there we're at. All right.
Yeah,
If we can all have your attention again, please.
So actually, this is a great example. Can I tell a story? Yes, this is a great example, actually, and there are many.
Sorry,
so Finch is based out of One Roof, which is a co-working space dedicated to female entrepreneurs in South Bank. And we've been there since June of last year. And when we raised capital, we toyed with the idea of moving elsewhere, and we did the rounds and actually decided to rent out the upstairs loft, take that whole space out for our team and stay there. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I passionately believe in what Shahirah is building there as a community. I think it's really important that we support initiatives like that, and I think it's really important to signal to the market that yes, you can build a high-performing fintech out of anywhere you want, whether it's a garage or a fancy WeWork or a female co-working space. We had a person who's paid to recruit people for a lot of money, and he basically came in one day and said, listen, I think what you're doing is great. I can hook you up with CTOs out of London or the US, but first things first, you're going to have to move your team out of One Roof. No one's going to come work out of here for you. And he was like slightly credible right up until that point, and we were just like, that's not happening. You do not tell us how we build our startup. You don't tell us how we create our culture, and you certainly don't tell us, who is going to come and work for us and who isn't. And so, a lot of people will come in and tell you that, and people are surprised when we're there. And you know what? That's awesome, because they expect us to be at Stone and Chalk, and they expect us to be in the fintech community, and that's a great network for us that we tap into when we need. We're very good, good friends with the Fintech Australia board, but we actually don't need to be in that space. And we feel that One Roof is fantastic on so many levels. So you'll always get people who will try to tell you how to do things, and I think it's important to just be really confident and say thanks, but no thanks.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, can you all please put your hands together for Shahirah?